Like it was very hard to pick a direction or pick a lane. How do you build something that works for all of these use cases at the same time?
When Wistia was growing 100% year over year, they had traction, customers, and momentum. But what they didn't have was clarity. Like Chris Savage had to make a call that would completely change the trajectory of the company.
Which customers do you think are best? Okay, just do that. It feels scary, but for us, it compounded and continued and got us to a better place.
That decision forced Wistia to build something far more powerful than a product. They built an operating system for scaling.
Welcome to Move the Needle, the show where we explore how teams turn data into growth. Real stories, proven playbooks. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Move the Needle, a Databox's podcast about how companies are scaling up their business. Today, I have an awesome guest, really excited to talk to him. Chris and I have known each other for, I think, the better part of a decade now, if not longer. I've admired what Chris has built at Wistia and really excited to have him on to talk a bit about some of the strategic decisions they made over the years and how they made those decisions, how they turn that into concrete plans, and then how they execute. I know that Chris is a visionary in terms of where video is going on the internet and how to deliver video to people. And so we'll get into some of those details, I am sure, as well. So welcome to the podcast, Chris. Is this your first time?
On your podcast?
Yeah. Did John Bonini maybe interview you a long time?
I think he did. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So maybe it's the second time back.
First time with you on here. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. For those that don't know you or Wistia, do you mind just giving us the 60, 90, whatever you need really time to tell?
No. So Wistia is a video platform for marketers. And so we try to make it easy if you're using video at work to save you time, help you make great videos, help you understand how they're performing, get them to the right people. And while we have tons of people who use Wistia who have video in their title, like video producers and stuff like that, actually most people who use Wistia are just regular business users who need to use video at work. So it's hosting, it's single person recording, it's remote group recording, it's AI enabled editing, AI sound improvement, social clip creation. We have a full webinar platform. And the thing that really got the business going and most people probably know us for is that we really nailed hosting. So custom player, fastest video player on the internet, helps you control the experience for people on your website. Recently we just launched something called LLM friendly embeds as an example of our innovation there, where LLMs can't actually see videos because the crawlers that they use can't run JavaScript. And so if you have a lot of in-depth information, which most companies do in demos and webinars and stuff like that, none of those details are going to show up in the LLMs unless you can actually take the transcripts, help the crawlers understand what your video is. And that's the type of thing that we do here. So we launched that in November, I think.
Yep.
And if you use that, we'll automatically detect when the crawlers are hitting your site, make sure the AI can actually see what your videos are all about. And if it's a human looking at your videos, then you'll see them beautifully just as they normally would.
Yeah. Awesome. I could see you could probably geek out on video for a long time.
Yeah. If you didn't stop me, I could go for an hour. So we'll stop there and jump into other topics.
I don't want to call you an all-in-one video platform, but it feels appropriate-ish enough. You probably have spent plenty of time on your positioning and do or don't embrace that term, but you cover a lot of the video spectrum. I remember initially Wistia, this is years ago, the hosting was always a strength, but also the analytics.
That's right.
And so, because you post a video up on your server or your website or whatever, you're not going to see necessarily who viewed it, how long they viewed it, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then feeding that information into marketing automation platforms where it's in a B2B setting where salespeople can leverage it. So I know we could probably geek out about that for a little while.
That's like a huge thing that people still use us for, actually still innovating there. And it was one of those moments, speaking of strategy, it was like, we started working in video at the very beginning and then found our way towards helping people actually privately share video. That's the first thing that those are our first customers.
Yep.
And we built analytics for that actually.
Okay.
And we did it because we had a customer who was doing sales compliance training. And it was a very big, well-known company that they had to do the sales compliance training. They had to see if people watched it. Like, can you build analytics for this? We're like, sure. So we built analytics and we built an individual video heat map. So each person, you see what they watch, what they skip, what they rewatch. But if you have the first party data, you can tag them, or if you force them to log in, then they can, you can see exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that. We thought it was cool. And then our customers started saying, hey, this is awesome, but can we do this for the videos on our website?
Right.
And we were the private secure thing. So we were like, no, you can't. And then they're like, please, this data is so interesting.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And that's when things really started to take off, actually,
Oh,
was
okay.
putting that on the website and helping marketers use that data.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like in our webinar platform, we did the same thing. So our webinar platform is fully in the browser, but you can
Okay.
see if attendees are actually engaging, like if they're commenting. And it's actually, as far as I can tell, the first webinar platform to do
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say that sounds like it's unique, right? Because I
Yeah,
don't know of anything that does that, right? And that's
isn't
like
that funny?
the
So it's
thing with
like,
webinars is like the drop off, right? It's like how many people show
exactly.
up and then how many people actually stay and listen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just funny because it was like a lot later that we did the
Yeah.
opportunity still existed to innovate in the analytics again.
Yeah.
So we'll take it.
Yeah. At HubSpot, we used to have a phrase called 1+1 equals 3. I'm sure
Mhm.
you heard the phrase, but that sounds like a 1+1 equals 3 kind of thing where you already
Totally.
have the analytics kind of built in for the video. And so
Exactly.
probably putting it for the live webinar recording was not trivial, maybe, but like a no brainer.
Exactly. And also the integrations, right? Because it's like you can
Mhm.
take your data, put it in HubSpot, Pardot, Marketo, Eloqua, what have you, and then it just works for webinars. And so it's just like, boop,
Yeah.
I can tell, I can understand interest data, I can respond to the right people, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Before we get too far, Chris, into the strategy stuff, could you just give us a feel for the scale of the company? You have an interesting story which you've shared publicly, but you went down the path of raising capital, but then you
Mhm.
actually bought your investors out at some point. I
Mhm.
believe based on what you've published in the past, you're north of 50, 60 million in annual
That's right.
revenue.
Yeah, we're north of there, solidly north of there. And yeah, we had raised 1.4 million in angel financing in two
Mhm.
rounds. I mean, we raised it in 2008 and 2010, so it was a very different time.
Totally.
I was seemed like a lot of money to me at the time, where it's like seed rounds are like whatever, 10
Yeah,
million bucks.
right, exactly.
And then yeah, we decided that we wanted to keep the business independent
Mhm.
and had turned down some opportunities to sell the company. Want to do a reset with the investors and also the team because I had sold people like, hey, join this company and the equity. Someday we're going to sell the business. And
Mhm.
then if we're turning down selling it, that's like a lot of hubris to do that. And we felt like we wouldn't sleep well at night if we didn't take care of everybody. And
Yeah.
so we ended up raising 17 million in debt to do this buyback. So as a
Okay.
tender offer, everybody got to decide if they want to sell their options or
Okay,
sell
for
their
the
shares to their
employees, there
investor.
are options. Got it. Okay.
And then it meant that my co-founder and I ended up with control. Like we had control mostly before this, but didn't have like full control. It meant that we have full control.
Yeah.
And then obviously the debt forced us to be profitable.
Right.
And we thought that would be a good thing. We thought it would give us like rigor and focus. And that
Mhm.
our hunch was that that was actually what drove our success. And that this focus is it's so easy to think like the next idea is better than the current one.
Yeah.
It's so easy to think the thing you're not doing is going to be more important than the thing you're doing. But our
Mhm.
hunch was, when we stay focused, we end up doing so much better stuff. And we also have more constraints, which forces us to be more creative. And that's actually what matters. And the cool thing is, I mean, the business has grown tremendously since we did that
Since you
deal. We've paid off all the
Yeah,
debt.
it worked out.
So
So you
yeah,
look
it
like a
worked out.
genius upon retrospect for sure, and you could easily
Yeah.
say, "Hey, that was a good call." Yeah,
Yeah.
whether it's right or wrong, it's always tough to tell with any strategic decision, but it worked
It
out.
is. Yeah. That's, I think, the hard thing about them
Yeah,
is like you don't know what paths you didn't get on.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So as you know, or as I share with you, I've written this course. I spent a lot of time like reading or revisiting books around strategy and planning. I've read like Blue Ocean Strategy, let's see what else. Good strategy, bad strategy by Richard Rumel. I'm thinking I'm missing them all. I read them all last year. The EOS book
Mhm.
around planning, scaling up from Vern Harnish, Seven Powers. All these books, and I read them. And what I discovered is that there isn't any step by step path to take a company from strategy through to planning through to execution. There's a lot of
Mhm.
strategy books. There's a handful of good planning and execution books, but none that kind of connect to the dots. And so that's what I set out to build with this.
Cool.
So now I'm interviewing successful CEOs about, looking back at some of the strategic decisions they made, how they do their planning, how they create, set goals for their teams, how they hold people accountable, how do they motivate teams to keep going, et cetera. So love to just dig into a little bit with you, starting with strategy. So I know you've
Mhm.
made a bunch of strategic decisions along the way, but love
Mhm.
for you to just pick one or two or three that you think were the biggest ones, the most important ones, putting aside the buyback, but more a strategy on how you're helping your customers.
Yeah, I can think of two big ones that kind of stand out. There's been, I've been doing this a long time. It'll be 20 years this
20.
summer, so it's we've made a lot of changes. But
Yeah.
I remember when we were probably, I'm going to say, a million in revenue around
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
and we were growth was starting to go. It was pretty fast actually. I think we were growing about 100%.
Wow. Yeah.
And but we had a lot of different customers. So we
Hmm.
had customers who were using us for marketing, customers using us for sales, customers who were using us for training, like all different sorts of things. And we had sold every customer, so we knew that they were using us for these different reasons.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to position this on the website and saying like, "Hey, we do all of these different things,"
Yeah.
and then trying to figure out what to build. And it was incredibly hard to figure out what to build
Yep.
because how do you build something that works for all of these use cases at the same time? It basically got us back to making only the most foundational things. Like it was very hard to pick a direction or pick a lane.
Mhm.
And we were trying to decide what to do. And I actually went to a conference. I went to Business of Software
Mhm.
and saw Mike McDermott, who is the CEO of FreshBooks, give a talk, and it's a great talk. And then after I caught him in the hallway and I kind of explained to him the situation.
Right.
And he's like, "Well, which customers do you think are best out of these?" And I was like, I think it's the marketers. Like, I think they like the analytics the most. I think they feel like they get the most value. They have budget. They're spending budget to try to grow. Like, it's not a cost center. And he's like, "Okay, just do that." And I'm like, "Well, what about all these other
Mm.
use cases? What am I going to, like, I'm getting them now." He's like, "Oh, well, if you're really clear about who you're for, some people will still sign up for you, actually.
Mhm.
If they think you're the best tool, they're still going to sign up." And I was like, "This is a funny idea to know that you're going to say, I am only for this one use." And I still know that other people are going to see that. But if I describe that clearly enough, they're going to figure out, especially early adopters, how to take it and apply it to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that like pushed us all the way in. We came back and said, "Hey, we're private, as I was talking about before, like private sharing. And we're also this marketing, we're going to go 100% on the marketing side."
Yep.
And when you look at like the following probably 3 to 4 years, growth really accelerated and we built much better, more differentiated things. So
Mhm.
the analytics you're talking about was one example, but we were the first people to build lead capture into a video player.
Video. Yeah. I remember that.
And we were excited about it, solved our own problem. We were putting
Yeah.
videos on the website. Some of them were long. Like we're like, people will sign up for a webinar. Like, why won't they sign up for like a long recorded? And so we built the thing for ourselves, started working, built into the product, and then you just watched it take off.
Yep.
And then it turns out there were some other use cases that could benefit from that, but that focus allowed us to go much faster in the right direction.
Yeah. And you would have never built lead capture for a training.
Exactly. We would never built these integrations. There's all these
Yeah.
other things we wouldn't have done. And it basically got us out of this mode of feeling indecisive into a mode of feeling, oh, we can actually be really decisive about what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. This isn't a setup. People aren't going to believe it, but that's literally the first exercise in my course under strategy is find your ideal client profile.
Yeah, yeah.
And I walk people through how to do it. I didn't come up with it, right? But I think a lot of people skip that. And then what I find is almost every decision flows from there. I know that you guys did an exercise years ago called defining your view of the future,
Mhm.
which is aligned with your vision. And so that's what, like, one thing that defining your ICP allows you to do is say, like, who are we helping?
Yeah,
And how are we helping them? And then how are we going to be different from other companies that might be trying to do similar stuff? And so
that's right.
talk a little bit about like how that flowed and what your vision is and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
so I mean, that carried us for a very long way. And I think
Mhm.
it is hard to do that because you're basically feel like you're saying, "Hey, if I'm getting some of these people signing up for me or let's try my product and they're not the ideal customer profile, do I need to stop getting them? Do I need to stop serving them? Like,
Right.
is my growth going to slow when I do this?"
That's the risk. Yeah.
And so it feels scary, but for us, it compounded and continued and got us to a better place. I'll jump forward to like what I think was probably the biggest strategic shift we
Okay.
made, which was in 2021. And so like the short version from the beginning to then is we grew a lot, got profitable, did the debt thing, um, and really just like tried to be the best in the world at this video hosting thing for marketers. Like, we're going to do this better than anybody else. And our strategy was we're going to integrate with all the other tools.
Yep.
And so our thinking was we choose the best product in each category and we link them together. Everyone else can do the same thing.
Yep.
But then COVID happens in 2020. People are remote 2020 and 2021. Everyone starts using way more video. And what we see pretty quickly is that our customers are telling us that they're now overwhelmed. Like, video is much easier to use, but they're using 10, 15 different tools to accomplish the jobs they have with video.
Yep.
And so we did a bunch of research. We talked and interviewed with we interviewed like 500-ish customers. And that was customers of us, customers of products, customers who were building their own thing, like people in the space using video. And we saw some pretty consistent threads. And one of the things we saw is that people are tired of using this many tools, didn't want to use this many. The people who were in charge of video often did not have video in their title. It was the head of marketing. It was the head of customer success. It was the academy program. It was somebody else who had figured out video and embraced it, but it was not necessarily the video producer. And they said, I don't want all these tools. This is overwhelming. I don't want to keep up with all these updates. Like, I want one or two places I can go, and I want a trusted brand to do this. And this whole time, the way we did our marketing was teaching people how to make video, teaching people how to use video. So we built up all this earned trust in all these things beyond hosting. In fact, most of our marketing was not about hosting at all. It was about everything else.
Yeah.
And so we said in 2021, we're like, we think we could do this. And this would mean us expanding tremendously the footprint of our products. This would mean creation tools, as kind of everything I listed at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was going to mean way more people in product engineering.
Tools, podcast recording, like you're doing.
We have podcast recording, podcast hosting, like Loom-like video messaging, higher quality polished video recording, a virtual studio, easy online editor that's not designed for a video producer, but designed for someone at work.
Yep.
The webinar thing, all of this stuff we greenlit in 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's bold.
And we laid out this strategy that we said, hey, we're going to be this video marketing platform that is so easy to use across these different tools. And we're going to build it all. And we're going to build it all because we can make it so seamless that we can save people so much time. So if you use our webinar product, it needs to be great, but it needs to be in the browser. And the second it's done, the recording needs to be in your Wistia account.
Right.
Then you can edit it. And we saw that a very high percentage of webinars are edited.
Yep.
And then they're published on something like us. So, okay, that part's going to be easy. But then also you're going to want to make clips with it. Okay. And you're going to need to send the emails, the registration. We're going to do it all.
Yeah.
And by doing that, if you use us for webinars and use this for hosting, you're going to save a ton of time. If you use this for webinars and hosting and use our channels product, you're going to save a lot more time. If you record clips that go on your webinar with Wistia, you're going to save more time. And so we're going to create these workflows, and it's going to be hard, but we believed that if we did that, we could end up in a place where we can compete with all the point solutions because we have this breadth. And you don't need every feature if you can save people tons of time and you're reliable and easier. You need the 20 to 30% of the best features in each category. And then you can overcome the difference by being this all in one. And so, I mean, it was a big bet that we made and huge change. I mean, we hired a tremendous number of people to do it. We did it all under our own steam.
Was that like the last big strategic change you've made? It's 2026 now. Like, is that kept you busy for 4 or 5 years? It has.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. That has, and it was one of those things too, that I think a lot of these strategic changes take time. And I know that. And the funny thing for me was reminding myself of the early days, which is like, it's early 2023 and we've launched 2 out of the 5 things we planned on launching. And they're just starting to go, but they're not ripping yet. So what does that mean? Does it mean the strategy is wrong? Does it? And I remind myself, well, it didn't just like Wistia didn't start and 6 months later we had traction. Like it takes time.
Yeah.
And the real question, I actually just wrote a post about this on LinkedIn at the end of the year, because like, I feel like it's so easy to miss this, is like, the real question was like, are we getting feedback on this stuff? Because if nobody cares, they don't tell you anything. But if they tell you they hate it, you're onto something, because you might be solving a problem.
Like it, but it doesn't do this, so I'm not going to use it. You need something.
Exactly. And so we were getting a lot of feedback, but the traction was not all the way there yet. And I realized this is a good sign. We just have to stay on it. And so now I can look at it, and like, if you were to objectively look at our metrics for a lot of these things, like I think our webinar product is probably the best example. If you looked at it 2 months after we launched it, you'd be like, oh,
Oh,
like,
fuck.
this is
Yeah.
bad. Like you spent all this time and money making this thing. And if you looked at it like 9 months after, you would say, uh-oh,
Yeah.
probably. And if you looked at it like a year and a half after launch, you'd be like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
this was a good decision.
Right.
And that's how this stuff goes, which I think is like,
Yeah, I think there's a
kinda
term
interesting.
for it, isn't it? The trough of despair. So like once you launch
Totally.
something, and there's like, shit, we spent all this time, nobody's paying attention to it, right? Nobody's trying it. Our email campaigns are getting low click rates, right?
Exactly.
Whatever it is. Yeah. And I don't know, you tell me, do you think that can be overcome with more promotion, or is it just that iterative process where you get like one new customer to be happy at a time? Like what's more?
I think what most of us do is we underestimate how hard it is to get traction.
Mhm.
Like it's usually much harder to get traction on something than you would think, because there's too many details and things that like you have to get exactly right to like connect. But then when you get traction, we actually also underestimate how far you can take that traction. So it's much harder to get the traction than we think. But if you can get it, then
Yeah,
you
then
can
you
usually
ride
take it
it.
way
You-
farther than you can imagine,
Totally.
because we don't think in terms of, 8 billion people in the world. We don't think in terms of like millions, like 350 million people in the US. Like we
Right.
don't think about that every day. It's very hard to like, nothing else in your life is close to that except like maybe like looking at a lawn and looking at the blades of grass and thinking, this is how many people there are in like, a third of the US or whatever. Like it's just not like, you don't think that way. And so for that reason, I think it's very easy to not understand how far you can take things. Like one of the great mistakes I think that entrepreneurs make is they actually find traction. They get to a few million bucks and then they think, I can't get to 10. I can't get to
Right.
15. And
Right.
it's like, well, in our internet world, you probably can. But sorry, I feel like I'm going off on the wrong
No,
tangent
it's yeah. I want to bring you back in a little bit, but so to me, the two examples you gave me are both like selection of your customer and then what you build.
Yeah.
And so are you a product guy? Is that like your thing, or did you like luck your way into it?
I would say I am a product guy and
Yeah.
a market guy.
And a market guy, but both of
Yeah,
those examples are product, and of course your marketing is well aligned to your product and well aligned to who you sell to or market to. So I'm not underestimating the importance.
I think,
but
I think it's very hard to outmarket a bad product.
okay, got it.
So like if you have a bad product and you market it a ton, you'll get people to try it, but you'll have bad churn. You won't have good expansion. Like you may get a lot of feedback, but if the product's bad, you may struggle to take the feedback and turn it into something good.
Yeah.
If you have a great product, everything is easier.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception to this rule is if you have truly baked in distribution,
Right.
then you can get away with having products that are not as good. And people, or if it's like purely cost that people are factoring into a decision,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, you might have a ton of distribution. This thing is tremendously cheaper. You include it, people use it.
Yeah.
They know it's not as good, but they're
software
saving money.
companies don't have problems like Microsoft, right? Salesforce, even HubSpot. Like they have distribution that they've built up over the years across multiple channels, and when they launch something, everybody's checking it out and talking about it.
Exactly. And so you don't have
out.
to have the best product to have a significant impact on revenue or
Not
retention
judging
or
them
what have you.
specifically, but yeah, you don't have to have the best product. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I do think, back to your question of the first 10, I think that the key is getting like 10 really happy customers.
Okay.
And if you can do that, and it's not some unbelievable wild niche thing that literally has 20 potential customers.
Yeah.
If you can get 10 that are actually happy, you can get 100.
Right. Yeah.
And you basically have to keep looking at it like that. It's like, I need my first 10, and then I need my next 100, and then I need 1,000.
Yeah.
And once you get to 1,000, there's enough consistency and understanding probably that it's actually not that hard to go to 10,000.
Yeah.
You're through a lot of the hardest knot holes at that point.
Yep. Agreed. I'm going to rewind back a little bit. I could easily go down to planning now, but I want to stay up on strategy for a little bit more. So you made that decision, say in 2001, right? And that's kind of carried through. You've had to like aggressively revisit the strategic decisions there, and you presumably are busy iterating on either adding new features to it to complete that vision, or tweaking those and improving those features, et cetera. But I'm wondering whether you have like an annual process for revisiting your strategy and saying, hey,
So we have, So we have an annual process that goes through our planning and links into the strategy.
Okay.
I mean, we have updated the strategy since then, since 2021,
Hmm.
and it's mostly been because of AI. So it's been like, hey, AI is here and coming. We need to explore this. And then we have expectations for this. And then, like, I mean, the biggest change for us, I would say, is that the AI around transcription is so good
Yeah.
and cheap
It's
that we
ridiculous.
were able to say to every Wistia customer, like, hey, every video you used to pay us to transcribe videos. Every video is transcribed automatically. It's really good. Now we know what the videos are, where before they were just a black box. So
Mm.
suddenly all these other things start happening where we're helping you with your titles and doing titles automatically, and we're doing descriptions for you. We're giving you tags. That's helping with organization. That's like all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so we have tweaked and updated it. So it's kind of like, you could look at our strategy at any moment, but the biggest change was 2021.
Okay.
And then each year we basically use OKRs as an
Yeah.
expression of what are we really trying to accomplish this year? What should we set our sights on
Okay.
that feed into this overall vision?
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Go. Yeah. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
so we've used OKR, and we really adopted OKRs, I'm going to say 4 years ago or
Okay.
so.
Same. Yeah.
And we tried many times before and hadn't been able to get it to stick, and now have been able to get it to stick, and it has become very valuable. And yeah, the OKRs are planned annually. We have like a base case for everything, a target and a stretch target.
Uh,
And so
exactly what we do.
yeah, so the base is like our
Yeah.
current trend. And if you're doing expenses, we look at like, what's the base of this thing?
Hmm.
So like, let's not assume that things all worked. Let's assume that we're on the trend. What does that mean?
Yeah.
The target is something that based on where we are, we believe we could hit it. Like you
Yep.
have to believe you can hit it.
Yep.
And then the stretch target is like, if we hit the things early or have some massive breakthroughs, we could
Yep.
hit it, but
Yep.
we'll probably be hard otherwise.
Okay.
And so that's how we calibrate across these things.
Wow. It's like we share a brain here, Chris. This is exactly how we do it at Databox. And it's also the same, exactly what I baked into the course. So once strategy is defined, then you're in a position to define your objectives, right? I assume
Yeah,
the strategy and the objectives the objectives basically help you achieve the strategic vision.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people miss that. So a lot of people adopt OKRs from my understanding and from my interviews, talking to people without really thinking through the strategy piece. And I know you don't skip that. You've aligned
Yeah.
that well. Could you give us an example of like one objective that you did at some point over last few years, or what's this year, or like something that just gives people an example?
Yeah. I mean, let me think. This should be very easy, but there's
I know, I feel
something
the same way.
let me think of a good one.
I'll give you one of ours for this year. It's make customer success our number one priority. That's why it's like
Okay.
it's a ambition thing, right? Like it motivates the team. That's just the objective. There are key results tied to net retention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one we had last year was increase monthly active customers.
Okay. Perfect.
And that's like a very high level.
Yeah.
So we'd say, here's our major objectives, no numbers in them. Here are the key results
Yep.
within that. So that would be within a key result of accelerating growth in a certain category. And it was like, okay, you want the revenue thing to happen here. You want the monthly active customer thing to happen here. You want this other thing to happen here. And we believe those will add up to hitting this objective that everyone can understand.
Yep.
And then there's the company OKRs and then team OKRs within that. So every person can see how their OKRs ladder up and impact the overall
Yeah. Yeah.
is the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You probably don't know this, but we just launched OKR functionality into Databox. So
Oh, cool.
because we have all the integrations with the tools that people use and we pull the performance data out, we can automatically track the attainment
That's
of
awesome.
key results. But then, yeah, you have the tree structure that, the high level company wide objectives and then maybe functional objectives, or in
Yep.
our case, a lot of times we have cross functional teams that own an objective or an
Yep.
initiative. And so they're measured on the key result. So, yeah. Totally in line with that. And then on the modeling side, you mentioned having the base case, which is really like kind of not much changes, and that
Yep.
allows you to say, hey, our expenses, I assume, in our case, our expenses are
Mhm.
aligned to the base case. I imagine you're similar since you're operating
Yep.
profitably. And on top of that is like, oh, what if we have incremental improves in some things that we know will work? And that gives us that target. And then from there, it's like, okay, we're making a big swing on these 2 or 3 initiatives, big initiatives or objectives for the year. And if that work, they could get us to here, and that's our stretch. So
That's exactly right.
exactly what we're doing too. So how do you model all that out?
I mean, we have a good data and FP&A team that has really embraced this. So they help everybody. We look at them, you can look at a lot of these daily. I'm obviously can do that with Databox, but yeah. And then we have usually right now we're on a funny schedule where we do triannual planning.
Okay.
Have I talked to you about that? I don't think
No,
so.
but I love that. I've actually tried to push that internally. Go ahead. Explain it.
Well, basically we're doing quarterly and we're spending too much time planning.
Yeah, exactly.
So what if we drop one of them? And we've now done this for, I think, like 3 or 4 years, where 3 times a year we get together and do planning. And we're remote, but we bring together the senior people to do this in person.
Yep.
And so we do like a 3-day, we call it the triannual business review, which we call it TABOR. And there's one like in 2 weeks. And so people will come to the office that we still have in Cambridge, and there'll be like a Tuesday where basically you download on how the last 4 months went at the highest level. So everyone has a picture beyond what would fit in like an all hands. This is instead of the 15-minute performance thing in all hands, it's like the 4-hour version.
A deep dive on each area of the business.
And so then everyone knows, and also what worked and what didn't. Like, what did we learn about the customer that's telling us that this stuff, certain things are resonating, certain things are not.
Yeah.
And then you go away, there's nothing planned on the Tuesday. Everyone works with their teams and they come up with roadmaps and plans based on those things. Okay. And then basically we get back together on Thursday and go through them, all the plans, and everyone gives feedback. So you get cross-functional feedback. Everyone knows why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Then when it's communicated out, what it means, like the next all hands where everyone hears about this, you can go to your manager, or your manager's manager, and they can tell you why the marketing team is doing XYZ thing, or success is doing ABC thing, and how it fits into what we just did. And it's worked super well. This cadence has worked well for us. I think we've made good pivots at those moments that we probably wouldn't have otherwise. And I would also say that the in-person piece has really helped, because my experience running a remote business is that it's the disagreements that are the hardest part.
Yeah.
And so you have to have trust with the team to disagree, to push back, and also to give each other feedback. And if you don't feel like you know somebody, they're only like a box on your screen or like a face in Slack.
If you got people on a call, you don't want to be the jerk, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so we find that just bringing people together, the same reason why we do an offsite with the whole company, it actually helps the strategic planning part like a lot, and helps execution a lot.
Yeah. We did that a year before last, where we had all the management team come in, and it was like 2 or 3 days, and it definitely helped get everyone on the same page. We did it virtually this year for a handful of different reasons, but yeah, no, I like that. And I love the 3 times a year thing. I feel the same exact way. We do quarterly planning every 90 days. And I feel like we're like just getting to the point where we prove something out, and then it's like, oh, we got to kind of take a break for a week or two, put together our shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Present to everybody, like get that feedback. And then it's like, oh, why isn't it going faster? I'm like, because I just take 2 weeks off to put this shit together.
There's something else that really helped us. That is, on the product side, we started making a part of the planning to have visions of what the product can be in the future. Okay. And it's like 2 to 3 years in the future.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it is kind of our current imagining based on what we're hearing from customers of where things could end up.
Okay.
And this has been really interesting, because I find that a lot of the disagreement discussion is actually like using short-term decisions as a proxy for the future.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, if you don't want to do this lead capture thing, are we not for marketers anymore? Are we not? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's very helpful when someone can say, hey, based on what I know today, this is what I think the product will end up looking like in this area in 2-3 years. Because then you engage on that. And I've seen folks go from disagreeing in the short term to being like, oh no, what? I'm 100% online with this. Now tell me why, A versus B versus C now. And it's like, oh, and then, well, they usually have an answer, which is like, we're hearing from customers that this is a real problem.
This is what they want now.
And so it's more work to create the visions. Yeah. But has saved, I think, tremendous amounts of time and created a ton of alignment by doing this. I
Yeah,
also just think that
it's interesting because I
people,
think in an
yeah,
org that's trying to figure out how to grow, they're often thinking of like, what can we do tomorrow? What can we do next month or this quarter? And it's like, and then those things end up being incremental
yeah,
changes because you don't have the vision of where you want to be. So I think that's genius. So it sounds to me like your view of the future is not just something that you came up with or you and
no,
your founder came up with. It's something that you've kind of almost like pushed to the organization to like contribute to, and it's a
that's
living,
right.
breathing thing every 4 months. Sounds like.
That's exactly right. And I think that is a big change. If you were to look show me of 2015 how we work today, I would be
Yeah,
surprised by this. And also, I can tell you, like, this sounds so stupid to say, I'm getting chills, but like I get chills when I think about there are certain teams that have come back with a vision of something that was like not on my radar,
right.
not on my co-founder's radar, not a thing we would have come up with, that I was like, oh my gosh, like if we do this, like
That's
this
awesome.
is going to be unbelievable.
Right, right,
And
right.
when you leave those things like inspired yourself, like it's a very different feeling.
I bet. I
And
bet.
so there's a lot of stuff like that that has happened that I was like, I can't believe how big these people are dreaming, and also what they're like, the steps they're taking to get there. So I think that's partially why we haven't had to update the overall strategies. We have these mechanisms that are adding a big enough like tweaks to them
Yeah.
that they're changing. It's evolving, but
Yeah.
it's a co-evolution. It's not just
Yeah.
top down. There are certain things that are, which is like ideal customer profile, and that like we would not okay a massive change to that. Wouldn't just probably evolve like a massive change to that without being
Sure.
involved
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very deeply, you know?
Yeah. Understood. Yeah, I think so part of it is because you enabled the team or you're empowering the team to have those to have that input, to give them the space to provide that input, not just to you, but to their whole company, right? And so I think that's part of it, the empowerment that you're doing. But also, my guess, just from external observation, is that you also have done a really good job of that upfront vision. And you, your founder, your team have just thought far enough out that
Yeah.
you're anticipating some things that others wouldn't. And there's plenty of space between now and the future for innovation.
Yes, for sure.
Cool. All right. So into planning. So you have the OKRs. You must be assessing them on a at least every 4 month basis. But are you looking at them more frequently, and or is somebody on the team looking at more
Yes. Oh
frequently?
yeah. 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 So there's like, depending on the area of the business, like the people who manage and own their customer problem that they're solving,
Mm-hmm.
or the challenge that they have, like they'll look at this stuff all the time, right?
Right.
We'll have conversations with them in like OKR reviews, like usually every other month or so.
Okay.
It kind of depends on the thing. Some things we want to stay hyper close to. So we're looking at it all the time, talking about it all the time. And there's certain things that are like, we don't expect them to change that much. We don't expect it to swing the business that much in
Yep.
the near term in a good way. Like it's solid, consistent.
Right.
And so you don't have to look at it with the same.
Yep. Yeah. So it sounds to me like your whole team is empowered to analyze,
Yes.
and they're analyzing their own work for sure,
Yeah.
and making decisions on a daily basis, probably without checking in with you or even their
Yeah,
managers.
for sure. Yeah.
And then on a twice a quarter, twice every 4 months, once every other month, you maybe are having some kind of review. Is that synchronous, meaning you're in a meeting, or is that asynchronous communication where
It's both. Yeah, it's both. There's a lot of asynchronous. There's a lot of asynchronous with videos, as you would imagine.
okay.
So there is a lot of that.
Yeah, that-
There's also like, yeah, but there are certain areas that I am in there looking at stuff every single day. And
you mentioned there's certain things that you're paying attention. How do you decide what those things are? What is the criteria for you, your time, maybe your
uh,
family?
it's the things that should have the outsized impact. So it's something that's new and I'm trying to understand like how well it's resonating. And so this one of the feeds is like the data of the performance, and one of the other feeds of data is like the customers using it and talking to them. And so I'm talking to customers a lot.
Yeah.
And that is, I look at that as one of the ways of my understanding. It's like, okay, are you using our group recording feature? What do you like about it? Do you like this? Do you like that? Is this broken? Is this? And I also share a ton of feedback with the team
Yeah.
because I use Wistia an absolute ton. Like one of the big changes with our strategy is I used to never log into Wistia, or I did, but not that much. It would be like, I'd go and poke around how videos are performing,
Mhm.
maybe twice a month before.
Okay.
And I have had days, like I had a day in December that I emailed the company or Slack the company about because I spent 5 hours working in Wistia.
Okay. Got it.
Like I recorded my podcast in Wistia. I hosted a webinar in Wistia. I went to another event that was hosted by somebody in Wistia.
There you
I
go.
was editing.
Yeah.
It was and it all worked. I couldn't believe. I was like, this is unbelievable. And I also had feedback about everything. I was
Right.
just like,
Of course.
this thing on the podcast analytics, like I'm confused by this and I like this. And like,
Yeah.
this thing's not good. And
Got it.
this thing over here, this one feature, I had this weird clicking sound. And it was just feedback. So it's like, I'm sure they're annoyed. I'm like,
But
wow.
it sounds like overall the sentiment of the note was like, we're awesome. You guys are doing a great job.
I couldn't believe it's not that my day is actually that different than it was like 3 years ago. It's just that
Right.
now we solve all these other problems. I'm literally using the products every day.
Right.
And so I noticed the little changes and then I also noticed the little problems. And so it's kind of fun. It's not kind of fun. It's super fun. And it reminds me of the very early days where
Yeah.
I was in there every single day and I was giving feedback every day.
Right. Right. Because that's what you're doing.
But that's I look at that as a very real data point of like, so when I go to a webinar that's hosted with Wistia, usually someone says, what's this platform? It's awesome. And when people will say, is this a Wistia webinar thing? And so when you see that, you think, well, damn, that people don't usually talk about products. So like it takes a lot to do that. And then I'm like, all right, well, what does it look like in our performance data? I'm like, is this growing as solidly as it should? And is it, if it is, great, but sometimes it's not. So it's why is that?
Right.
So then it causes you to go find the right problem to zero in on. Maybe it's a messaging thing. Maybe it's an onboarding thing. Maybe it's a pricing thing. Maybe it's what. And so I'm constantly trying to have that full picture of like what a customer would experience and then take that and put it
And then look at
directly
the
against the
data.
performance data to help me understand what problem needs to be solved today. And often someone's already on it, but sometimes they're not. And so that's part of the job.
Right. And I don't know what your org structure looks like these days, but do you have like product managers that are doing similar work so you don't have to be the guy that's figuring
Yes.
it out?
Yeah. We have a bunch of product managers. They do not report to me. And so they are doing that. But one of the things that's hard when you have I think we have over 10 product managers.
Okay.
They are in their area. So then, back to this seamless thing we're talking about of like, it needs to all interconnect. That stuff, there's so many different ways for it to interconnect. It's so many different funny things there. There's a lot of stuff there that as the user, it's almost easier to see sometimes.
Yeah. When you step away. Yeah. The job, understanding the job to be done and then putting the pieces together in the product to accomplish that in a way where the user doesn't necessarily have to think about it, right?
Yeah. Like funny
just
little example, but we changed how our group recording works so that it uploads as you're recording. So like it uploads a high thing, res thing. It used to wait till the end.
Okay.
I noticed it instantly. And it was like a delight. It was like waiting 1 second at the end of the recording for it to work. It was like, okay, people are going to notice this because this is the worst part of this whole thing. Is the wait.
Like the part where like, did it work?
Or like a different thing of like, we changed our encoding so that it's much faster.
Okay.
And it does it can encode in real time. So if you're playing a video, it'll encode it as it's playing.
Okay.
But we encode all these other versions. So if it's like being shared at scale and it's, someone has incredible bandwidth and they're on a huge screen, it's really high quality. And if the bandwidths are really low, blah, blah. And those still take time. And I'm like, the detail on the messaging of what it says it's doing really matters on that thing. Yeah. Because like, if I'm ready, is it ready for me to actually share it or not? Should I share it in this exact moment or do I have to wait 2 minutes? Doesn't seem like a big deal when you're looking at the performance data. Oh, our performance data is better. It's 50% better. But when you're sitting there as the customer, huge deal. Yeah. And so for me, it's like that mixing between the pieces is what's so important.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. So back to what you said a little earlier, like you pay attention to the things that could potentially have outsized returns, right? And then your teams are paying attention to what they're working on. I assume you have different functions, sales function, et cetera, where they have their own metrics that maybe don't change that frequently and they're paying attention and driving to that. The question is, do you and does the rest of the team have visibility into what's going on across the business or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then like, what is the culture around like people monitoring how the business is going? How transparent are you? Like,
we're
why
very
do you do it that
transparent.
way?
Yeah. We've been very transparent basically since the beginning. So
Hmm.
how are we doing this month? Look at all the finances. What's happening with the objectives and OKRs? Like all of them. That's a part of our all hands every month as we go through and say, here's where we are. We actually rate it with a grade now. That's
Oh,
like shows people like, hey, stretch is an A, target is a B,
okay.
base is a C, below base is a D,
Yeah.
And so you have this grid where you can really quickly see across everything. How are we doing? And it's very interesting because like you can't, we're in a world that's changing constantly, right? So, AI search, good example. It's
Right.
been pretty hard to predict like marketing traffic data.
Totally.
Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Is it going to be the right, people who are more commerce related and ready to buy? Is it going to be less? And so you've seen things that are like, wow, there's S tier above this too. So it's like, oh, it's S tier up and it's flipped to C up. And then it's like, is there a problem? Did we create a problem or is it a market thing?
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, that is all being communicated
Yeah.
and you have access to everything.
Okay.
And
So
I think
everyone
that,
has access to everything, and then that's
yeah,
that, and then you're reviewing it, all of that on all hands.
we can't review everything with everyone
Okay.
because there's too much
Too
detail.
much.
So we review the highest level things and then we are an editor, like the senior management team is saying like, hey, this thing is something that a lot of people can help with, a lot of people can understand. Let's go deeper on this one this month.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So you kind of rotate through things, and that
That's
way,
kind of how we do it. Yeah.
year everybody has a better understanding. And of course,
Yeah.
you've been there for years, you have a really good
Yeah.
understanding. So yeah, that's cool. What do you find that does in terms of like enabling the team and like in terms of decision making or
Well, I
whatever?
mean, I think that a lot of leadership is just modeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so by we have to be thoughtful with how we go through it because that's how other people are going to go through the data too. If
Yeah.
like we're blasé with it, they're not going to take it seriously. If we take it seriously, but we're also like understanding when there's issues, like that's how people are going to do it. And
Yeah.
so very much I see the job as like of how we manage data and objectives and the strategy of like, okay,
Yeah.
we need to be serious when it's time to be serious. We need to be clear when there's a problem.
Yeah.
We should also be celebrating the things that add up to the solution. So whenever you're doing lots of new stuff, it's back to the kind of like that 10 customer thing.
Yeah.
The first customer uses something or upgrades or something. Might not seem like a big deal by itself, but it is if it is like a repeatable new thing
Totally.
that's gonna become big. And so we have to look at that and say, hey, this upgrade is a big deal. So we're gonna talk about the specific customer, talk about why they upgraded.
Yeah.
And then you do it again and again and again. And then it's all this reinforcing stuff so that hopefully everyone has access to the right data to do their job. And they have like an example of like the Wistia way to do it. So that we end up in the best spot. But yeah, a lot of it is just like how this stuff comes together and what's the story to empower people to then use all the things that they need.
Got it. Cool. All right, and then this last question, and we'll wrap up. In the course I put together, it's strategy, plan, execute, adjust, which we just kind of covered all of that stuff. And clearly have processes where teams are empowered to adjust. You're reviewing certain things. The management team's reviewing certain things. It sounds like you divide and conquer a bit with the different management team members, where they can go
Yep.
and adjust things and in order to get things to the outcome that you want, which is happy customers, and then results in the business. And then on the last step or there's two more steps, but repeat is the next step in the course. Walk me through a little bit, like once you've kind of figured something out and how you like operate business as usual, and like how do you go from like innovation, experimentation, launches, et cetera, to like this is part of Wistia now, and then we're going to continue doing this.
A lot of it is like who is going to own it.
Okay.
And so one thing that's been interesting to see is sometimes there are people who are better at the launching part and there are people who are better at the scaling part. Like
Absolutely.
I like to talk about this as like there's the pioneers, the settlers, and the city planners.
Okay.
And everyone's kind of like wired a different way. And so it's like, there's the people who just want to like they're willing to go out west and have no idea where the gold is and start digging.
Right.
And you have to be crazy. And a lot of the stuff is not going to work and you might die. You might get dysentery. And
Yeah.
then if you find the mine, then there's like, oh, like there's a mine here. Like, let's go. And the settlers show up and they start building infrastructure
Yeah.
and they start figuring out like, what are all the things we need? Oh, we need a bank and we need a hospital. We need a grocery store and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And then there's the city planners who are like, yeah, we're going to go from one of each of these things to 1,000. And
Yep.
so the question is, what stage is the project at and who should own it based off of that? And sometimes it is literally within a team. You have someone who's the pioneer and someone who's more the settler, someone who's more the city planner. And so one team owns the whole thread all the way through. Sometimes it switches teams. It depends on the thing, honestly. And so we kind of look at it as like, once this thing is consistently here and good, is that what do we expect from it? Do we expect it to stay where it's at? Is this something that's needs to be tremendously better before it gets scaled? Like all those types of questions.
Yeah. You're more of a PLG model, right? Like
Yeah,
you are profitable, as you mentioned. So my guess is that when you build something, you're not necessarily going and saying, hey, let's spin a team up from 2 to 10 people. Like, or maybe you do that in some areas, but my guess is when you're scaling something, you're thinking much more programmatically, product and marketing first. Is that fair?
usually. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the only thing is sometimes we have found, and this is where like AI coding, AI
Mm,
enabled coding has changed things, is we can have there has always been certain people who, for us at least, can take, one or two people can build something totally brand new and like hit a winner like right from the start.
yeah.
And so sometimes what we'll do in the past, we take that small 1, 2 person thing, and then as it starts to work, we'll hand it to a team
Okay.
who can scale it.
Yep.
And so that is a way that we've done it. I will tell you, there are some things we're doing more things now where there's like two people on something and
Yep.
they're using a lot of AI to enable and help them with the development
Yep.
that is letting us go much faster than we would have before, and
Yeah.
also having someone manage more scale than they would have managed before.
Okay.
So I expect a lot of this to change. I mean, I think that's the other thing is like, we're getting into the how do you execute and then just keep executing and keep updating, keep repeating.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if what we see in like a few years, let's say like 3 years, is that, the size of the team that we expect to manage something is actually different,
Right.
probably smaller,
Right.
with maybe more shared resources where it's like, hey, the PM is managing something, that this PM and this designer are both managing two teams instead of one.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
each team has like 2 or 3 engineers on it, where before each would have had 7.
Okay.
But the output is actually faster than we see now.
Yeah.
Like
Faster.
that's
You're right. Yeah.
kind of what it looks like things are going to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, same thing here. It's like especially with the AI coding, the amount that can get done. Like one of the bottlenecks in our business is building integrations with other tools to
Yeah.
pull the performance data out so that people can then do what they do in Databox with it. And that like the speed at which we can do that now is much faster now with AI.
It's pretty wild out there.
And then of course there's AI in marketing, sales, that everything goes a little faster. Yeah, it's like one of my thesis is that you have to, as an organization, be transparent with your performance, because the amount of things that can get done is not something that one individual can possibly consume and even understand or fathom. And like I noticed it about a year ago when the team started to like put together their plans using ChatGPT, it became so much that I couldn't possibly even read it all. And so it's like, all right, yeah, what's the high level and go, right? So I think AI is forcing us all to move at a faster clock speed for sure.
I think that's 100% right. And I think that's also why you have to distribute ownership across the business.
Yes.
And, we talked a little bit about that with visions, but like
Yeah.
roadmaps and goals and who's looking at the data. And like, that's the only way to scale. And I think when things felt slower, maybe you could feel like you could have the throughput to go look, and you just can't. So
Yeah. Can't have the throughput. Yeah.
and also you're just slowing, you become the
bottom.
bottleneck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I had a meeting this morning where working with somebody who's putting together email messaging, and I'm like, I can't be the bottleneck here. You need to find a new solution for
Yeah.
getting the final editing or whatever. Get me out of this. And so, yeah, no, I hear you. Any last words of wisdom for a company trying to scale? You've clearly done it. So, what's like your one big thing that you always stress with people?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, this stuff can be hard, like, especially if you're like the pioneering type. We're talking about a lot of like, how do you take instinct and taste and turn it into a system that enables other people to work? And so I would say get help, get people who are really good at this,
Yeah.
who want to do it and like co-create. Don't think you have to do it all exactly yourself.
Yeah.
Use tools like Databox that help you. Like, I think that it can, the other thing I would say is younger me believed that creativity came from chaos
Mm,
and that can happen. And more seasoned me knows that actually the right constraints create creativity. And so if you give people a customer problem to own and you give them the right objective and
yeah,
KR and you give them the vision,
resources
it
that,
feels like you're giving a lot of stuff, but ultimately you're actually giving them freedom to experiment within that space. And in a lot of,
yeah,
for most people, that's actually easier. And so they can be more creative with more structure. So
yeah,
don't be afraid of that. Like it doesn't happen overnight, but like with enough consistent effort, you can figure this out.
yeah, agreed, agreed. Cool. If somebody wants to follow along with you, what's the best place to follow you?
Yeah, best place to follow me is LinkedIn, Chris Savage on LinkedIn. You can
Yeah,
also check out my podcast, Talking Too Loud with Chris Savage, wherever podcasts are sold.
cool. Yeah, both things worth the follow. As you know, I follow you closely. I think I'm usually one of the first people to comment on your LinkedIn posts. You always have to get in touch with there. So thank you for that, Chris. Cool. Thank you
Cool.
very much for taking the hour with me here today and sharing the behind the scenes of how Wistia works. I think a lot of people will be well informed and be able to apply a lot of the stuff that you shared, both in terms of the practical things that you do to scale the business, but also like the mentality that you have and how you run the company. So thank you for sharing your insights.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Move the Needle, make sure to subscribe and check out our newsletter. Every other week, we send out episode recaps with key takeaways, plus practical playbooks, free templates, and more. Sign up at databox.com/newsletter.